Welcome
to the Harshi Podcast.
I am.
If I'm supposed to answer now. With January and
Brandon.
Go ahead. You said you were going to lead this one.
All right. You look like you were going to say something.
No.
Okay. You were just expressing some opinions about a very near and dear topic to your heart a few minutes ago. I said, pause. Let me get the recorder and hit record.
Is this going to happen often now where we're having a discussion and then you pull out the podcast equipment and we continue our discussion on here?
Yeah, because you have a lot of women that follow you because of all the cool shit you put on social media and say at events. So I figure why not hit record and let them hear you when they're doing dishes or driving in the car or whatever else they may be doing.
All right. So what do you want me to talk about?
Well, how do you feel about Facebook?
I feel like Facebook is not the end all be all of our relationships, and we need to be more mindful about that.
Yes. What started the whole thing is that you're getting away from using Facebook event pages for your events that you're doing.
I'm just getting away from Facebook altogether.
Right. Last
yes.
year, I got off Facebook completely. You are essentially off of it. We occasionally will post stuff up on the Birth Without Fear page, but why are you getting off of it?
Because it's an incredibly negative space to be in. And for my own self-care, my own mental health, I just don't want to be in that virtual reality that is so negative really at all anymore. And I've been talking about this for a long time because now there's a presence of Birth Without Fear and spin-off platforms on Instagram. But I started Birth Without Fear on Facebook, and then numbers are there and that kind of thing. But I'm personally not one to follow what's popular or do it because I have the numbers. And so I've been wanting to move away from Facebook for a while. And it always comes down to, well, I can't because my business page. Well, I can't because my business page. And there are many platforms out there. And if I feel that Facebook is not the best platform for me to share my information or for me to be on personally, that's okay. So it's really interesting for me personally to be moving away from Facebook because it's almost like people just stop like during the headlights and they don't know what to do and they don't understand.
Yeah.
So I've had questions. I've seen things written about me that are, not a lot, you guys. There's no drama going on. There's nothing happening. Just little tidbits here and there and different conversations and whatnot. People thinking that I just don't want to be on there for another reason. Or recently somebody said, that I've gotten off social media altogether, which is so not far from the truth.
It is far from the truth.
What did I say?
You said it's not far from the truth.
Well, it's late and you pulled this out on me, so I'm going to misspeak a little bit, and that's okay. I'm allowed to misspeak. I'm human.
I'm just elaborating.
Yeah, it is far from the truth. So what you mentioned earlier was with the event pages. So
yes.
When I first started doing Birth Without Fear events in 2013, and then in 2014 and 2015, I created event pages on Facebook. Now, at the time, Facebook was not being an asshole. I could create an event page, and anytime I posted in it, all the people who followed Birth Without Fear would see it in their feed. So the information got out there. People were seeing it. People were buying tickets because of it. And it was a really wonderful thing. And then in 2016, that started changing.
Yeah.
They changed the logarithms. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then in 2017, it changed even more. They changed the format of it. And there really is no benefit to it other than, of course, it is a place for people on Facebook. They can go see what's on it.
Right.
Well, with me moving away from Facebook for a while, it was like, well, that's where the event pages are. So what will I do? And so I made a very conscious decision at the beginning of this year to not find reasons to not do what my instincts are telling me to do, or to not find reasons to not do what I feel is best for me. And so I stopped creating event pages. And there's a few on there from rescheduled events last year, but starting 2018, I did not create any more event pages. And it's almost like people don't know what the fuck to do with themselves. People get so confused and lost. And here's the thing. I might not be on Facebook, but I am on Instagram. And I'm not just on one Instagram. I'm on like 7. You can find me on Birth Without Fear, Don't Forget Dads, Take Back Postpartum, Parent Without Fear, Those Crazy Vegans, January Harshi, Oxytocin Vibes. I mean, how many was that? 6?
Mm-hmm. And then there's Brandon_Harshi.
Right.
For memes.
And I check the DMs there. I promote all the events there. There is way more interaction and positive interaction on my post on Instagram than on Facebook. I can post the same photo or story on Instagram and it will have not only more interaction, comments, reach, impressions, but they're more positive than when I share it to Facebook. And then now on Instagram, you have the stories. And yes, they're only available 24 hours, but the reach on our stories is fabulous right now. The way logarithms are on Instagram currently is not so great for your feed posts, but really great for your stories and your posts there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when I post on the stories, it's wonderful and it's interactive. And I think people like it too because it's more, I guess it's more live in a way. It's not live, but you can take a picture from weeks ago and do a post on your feed. But usually on stories, it's more like day of and really authentic. Right. You know, I love people's stories for that reason. And now on Instagram, you can save and highlight stories for as long as you want. So I have been sharing about events on Instagram, on the stories, and mind you, we have a combined total of, I know it's over 600,000 followers on Instagram. So I'm sharing it across all these platforms. We also talk about things now on our podcast. The podcast is newer for us, but this is where we share what's going on, what's happening with events, what's happening with shipping. And it's a lot more personable too in these ways. I decided to take things a little old school and communicate with attendees via email. Isn't that wild? That email.
That sounds familiar. What is that?
So like 1999. Not really. Mail. Not really. It's again, it gets right into the inbox of every single attendee. So all the information's on the registration page, all the information's on Instagram, the information's on our podcast, and then I email the details of events to the attendees. I would not share anything different in an event page. Like there's nothing else I would share in an event page that I'm not sharing on a registration page or emails. And most of the time, I think this is going okay, but some people just don't know how to handle that, I guess. And here's what I have to say about that. Sometimes when you make changes or you make a transition in your life, whether small or big, and you know it's best for you and you know it's positive, that does not mean it's always going to be A, easy, or that B, everybody will see your vision and be on board. Do it anyways. I know what I'm doing for me, for my business, moving forward. I know what I'm doing is for the best. I also know I'm allowed to change my mind and try something. And then if it doesn't work, go back to something else or try something new. Even though I have gotten a little bit of pushback or not understanding, I do my best to clarify things. I do my best to communicate. And then at the end of the day, if it's still not being understood, that's okay. I'm okay with somebody not understanding me. I am not for everyone, and I am under no obligation to make sense to everyone.
Absolutely. And I think everything you just said is applicable to everyone because we have to do what makes us feel happy. We have to do what we think feels right. Trust our own gut. That's how you live the most authentic life you can live, as opposed to trying to please everyone around you. And then you end up becoming a slave to everyone else's opinions. And that's a recipe for disaster and low self-esteem and depression and whatever else.
A lot of doubt, self-doubt.
Self-doubt, yeah. So
there's been times over the last few months that I've made some decisions and, 99% of people who are in our communities or platforms or whatnot are totally understanding and they get it. But you're always going to have some people who don't. And with some of that pushback or misunderstandings I've had, it was getting to me. I completely will openly admit it was getting to me. There's times I felt hurt, frustrated, misunderstood, and it's really harder to be the bigger person. It's hard to be the bigger person sometimes. And on top of that, it's hard to really make the decision not to explain yourself. Because yes, on one hand, especially if you're doing business or whatever, you definitely need to be as professional as you can, admit to your mistakes, make up for anything that, you might have had flaws in, do better, try better or whatnot. But there's also another side to it where you can only do so much and then you stop explaining yourself and you move on and you move forward. And I think it's good for those that are listening, if you have a business or you work in business, to remember these things, that it's okay to make change and it's okay. And even if you're not in business, even if you're making change for your family or doing something else and you're getting pushback, You might be thinking, why am I even doing this? Or am I doing the wrong thing? No, girl, you're not. You know what you need to be doing for you, for your family, for your business, or whatever it is. And it doesn't mean that it's always going to be easy and everyone's going to be like, oh, that's awesome. We're totally on board. No, some people are going to have to get the fuck off your train. Some people are not going to be on board, and that's all right. You know what? Let them get off your train and go make their own train. Go get on somebody else's train, and you keep chugging along on your train like the badass that you are. And you know what? The right people will get on board. The right people who will support you, understand you, give you grace, give you benefit of the doubt, love you. Those are the people that will either stay on or get on. And that's okay. I really liked that analogy, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from, but I love that. You know what? Be on board if you support me. If not, get the hell off my train.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's okay. So I kind of going through that right now. And I think it's wild that a lot of it is surrounding me stepping away from Facebook. It's like you're not on Facebook and people, oh my gosh, she's on a social media. It's like, no, that's not true. I'm also not on Snapchat anymore. And that's for my own mental health and self-care. I do not have to be available on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. There's so many, and I'm sure there'll be new ones. Elo, I don't even know if that ever really took off.
No.
I have an account there, I think. But you don't have to be on everything. I don't have to be on everything. And if I find a platform that works best for my voice and my community that I can put my energy into, I'm not going to put my energy into all these other platforms that I really don't want to be on anyway. So how is that benefiting anyone? It's just not.
You mean you're not going to go on Tinder? Tumblr? Periscope?
I mean, don't you only go on Tinder to find a fuckboy? I already have one of those. Oh, man.
So I've heard.
This is what happens, I guess, when you pull out the podcast equipment. What time is it even?
I don't know.
11:30, midnight?
Well, it's interesting about Facebook is it's such a cesspool of negativity.
It is.
Whereas the other social media platforms aren't so much. And with Facebook, I know the way it was for me is you see all this stuff in your news feed, and it's all this negative stuff because that's how the media makes their money, is selling fear. And then you see what friends of your friends are reading and sharing, and it's you get into this rabbit hole of checking this thing out, and then you go to that actual website where that article is, and then you scroll down at the bottom, and then there's other articles, and so you click on another article. It's just this rabbit hole of negativity, and people are scrolling through this stuff, reading this stuff, and then they maybe go to your page or wondering about something regarding what you're doing about your events, and then all that negativity is getting spilled over.
I can always tell when somebody comes at me if they've been on Facebook reading threads or in groups having debates or fights, or if they've been talking to a group of friends that I was not privy to that conversation. And it's just this negative drama mentality. And, you cannot say that you are part of women supporting women if you're only doing that when everything is wonderful and perfect. Don't say, oh, I'm women supporting women, just to be able to use the hashtag or to share a photo or to look cool or to get likes. Like, you need to be supporting women when somebody is gossiping about me or somebody else. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. Who are we talking about here? Like, look at all the good they've done. Or, has anybody asked her? Or are we all just assuming? That's women supporting women, or helping a woman when she's going through a really hard time in her life, or she's flawed, or she's making mistakes. That's women supporting women. Don't use something because it's trendy. Only say it if you're actually doing it in your everyday life and not to get attention, right?
Yeah.
So on Facebook, like you said, it's just a rabbit hole of negativity most of the time. I mean, some of you listening might have positive experiences there because you are mindful of it. Your profile is private. You're only in a very select groups, or you use it to just communicate with family or whatnot, and that's awesome. Most of the time, that's not what's happening. The other reason why I removed myself from Facebook and I'm using Instagram as a platform is because as a user of the platform, you have more control over your privacy. You can make your Instagram profile private very, very easily with a swipe of a button, and you can block people and they can't ever see you again. Whereas on Facebook, if you have a page, you can ban somebody, but they can still see your page. They just can't comment. things like that. You can turn off comments on Instagram on posts. So if you're just wanting to share something and you don't even want to worry about having to go back and check it, just turn off comments. And also it's a really quick way to check your ego too, if you're not looking for that validation in comments,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I can turn off comments. I can share stuff in stories and turn the messaging off on the stories. There's a lot more tools to be mindful with the use of the Instagram platform than with Facebook. For me personally, that's how I feel. I guess I'm explaining my decision and why I'm removing myself from Facebook and putting myself just mostly on Instagram, my energy in 2008. And that was a personal goal I made at the beginning of the year for 2018, was to finally step away from Facebook. And I love Snapchat, but I wanted to only be on one platform for my own mental health and self-care.
Yeah.
And I really don't give a shit what anyone thinks about that.
No, nor should
I really
you.
don't. It doesn't matter. And if people are upset that I'm not on Instagram, they can make an Instagram account or they can't. That's fine. Listen to the podcast. Go to my website. There's other ways to communicate. Email me. I might not email you back for 3 weeks, but I will email you back.
Not only are we shitty shippers, we're shitty emailers.
I've gotten better. I've been able to get more organized recently because
you have. That is true.
Because we're becoming more mindful on how many events we're doing, on how many platforms we're on, stepping away from wrapping up the shipping for now. And so I actually have gone into all of our main email accounts and have gotten them organized, responded to everybody, and really trying to stay on top of that. So when you find yourself saying, I don't have time, you do have time. It's just you're filling it up with things that you really aren't being mindful about and you probably don't want to be doing.
Yeah. That's
for me, my experience. My January Harshing and Birth Without Fear pages are still there just as placeholders, really. Birth Without Fear, I think you have new blog posts from the birthwithoutfear.blog being shared over there.
Yeah, I go on there and I'll share stuff. And
you will still see some posts on Birth Without Fear, but that's just mostly Brandon sharing. That's mostly you sharing stuff from the blog. Yeah, so we're regularly updating the Birth Without Fear website, so people can go there. We have a newsletter that goes out from there. So there's so many other ways. So just because somebody is not seeing it on Facebook, y'all, doesn't mean that it's not happening. It's just happening on a platform that you're not on, or you're not paying attention to, or you're not listening to. And that's fine. But don't accuse me of not being on social media, not being available. And speaking of, we do not have to be available 24/7.
No, we do not.
Social media has made everyone believe that either they have to be available 24/7 or that other people should be available 24/7. And that's just ridiculous. That's not possible, you guys. Like, we have lives outside of social media and business. We have families, we have hobbies, we have things that we want to do. And if we don't have hobbies or things we want to do, then we really are spending too much time on it. And we need to step away and get more connected with what really makes us happy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And on Facebook, when I was on it, I always made myself unavailable on the chat because people can go on there and see if you're available. And, whenever you go on, or whenever I'd go on, you'd have 2 or 3 people just start chatting with you. It's like, I don't feel like talking with anybody right now. I don't owe anyone any kind of explanation about my life right now. So I'd always do that. And I think also too, the thing to remember is that the amount of comments you get, the amount of likes you get, it's not real life. It doesn't instantly provide money into your bank account. It doesn't improve your relationships in your life. It doesn't get you laid. It doesn't really do anything. It's just a silly metric that's on Facebook that
the likes and the comments.
That's not going to matter. One day you're going to die and no one's going to want to know how many likes you got on this post on May 5th, 2017. That's not real life.
Right. Like, if somebody goes to my Instagram, they're not going to care about that. Like, they would be like, what was she sharing? What was she about? What was her message?
Yeah. What did she do in her life?
What did she do in her life?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be there without Facebook and without comments or likes or validation, because that's my voice that I'm putting out there. And that's truly what matters at the end of the day. And we can find beautiful connections via social media. I know I have with this International Women's Day recently. You guys, I cannot tell you how many DMs I got that I was mentioning in people's stories that I inspired them. And it just humbled me and blew me away by, I don't even know how many, but by tonight I was just in tears getting these notifications. And that's what it's about. just to receive this love being tagged in these posts that I'm inspiring women is just beautiful. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm on social media. I'm not here to please anyone or do what anybody else wants me to do or be somewhere that I don't feel comfortable being. I'm not okay with somebody demanding of me something I'm not comfortable with. And I've always been one to make changes before other people. See, in my mind, everyone's done with Facebook. In my mind, Facebook is my space. In my mind, we're all over this, right? So I think I kind of forget that everybody's not there yet. But I know a lot of people on my Instagram are. A lot of people have said, I'm off Facebook. I'll no longer do it. For me, this is a thing of the past, and I'm done with it. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm literally mentally have moved on from it. I don't know why it is that some people feel like if it's not as Facebook, it doesn't exist. Well, I didn't see enough. It's, you know how like it used to be like, oh, well, if it was on the internet, it must be true.
Yeah.
Right. And now it's like, well, if it's not on Facebook, it didn't exist. You're not available. You're not sharing this. You're not. And it's like, what? Huh? Okay, Susan.
When I was in chiropractic school, towards the end, I'd connected with a chiropractor that'd been in practice for probably 8, 9, 10 years. And we both had chiropractic blogs, and he was pretty internet savvy, tech savvy, and he had a Twitter account. And I had talked to him about getting some tips about practicing when I graduated. And he was on Twitter, but that was it. He had never gotten onto Facebook. He didn't have a Facebook account. And this was, back in 2008, 2009. And I remember thinking that was crazy. Like, you want to be on the internet, you want to be everywhere, you want to be able to advertise and market yourself. He had a word of mouth practice that didn't require him to be on social media whatsoever.
That. Yeah, see, I'm so old school like that. I love that shit.
Yeah, and so now I'm there. I'm at that point as well. And like I said, I'm off Facebook as well. But it's just interesting how he had that foresight way back when, and he said, I'm not gonna get on Facebook. He's like, I'm just gonna wait around for the next thing.
It is.
And who knows what that's going to be, but it's coming for sure.
That's interesting because I've told this to you before, but if Instagram was a platform at the time in 2010 that I started Birth Without Fear, I would have never started it on, maybe I would have, but Instagram is where, in hindsight, I should say then, I mean, that doesn't nobody any good ever, but in hindsight, with what I know now, I would just have gotten it on Instagram and called it.
Yeah, I think people are using Instagram a lot more, and Twitter has seemed like it's stood the test of time.
I just don't understand it.
Yeah, it's been going strong.
I'm on there. I just don't use it. So who knows what people are tweeting me? I'm not going to go look.
Yeah, I think I look once every quarter.
Yeah, but I am on there. But yeah, I don't remember the last time I checked it. I really don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to follow everyone. If you see anything you don't like, unfollow it. You don't have to be friends with everyone. I have friends who I'm friends with in real life, text, phone call, get together, who I don't follow on any platform because I don't want to see some of the stuff they post. That doesn't mean we're not friends. So it goes both ways. And
yeah.
It's okay. It's okay to not do something everybody else wants you to do. It's okay to say, hey, I'm going to do my business this way, and it might be different than everybody else, but isn't that actually really rad? And you bring up a good point about that chiropractor, because I've seen other people like that too, like the Zen Habits guy.
Yeah, Leo Babauta.
He got off everywhere except for Google, actually.
Google Plus
of all things. And he's like, well, this is where I'm staying if you want to communicate with me. And you know what? If people really want to communicate with him, guess what? They go to Google Plus, you know? So we're allowed to pick and choose where we want to share our voice and make ourselves vulnerable, really. It's a vulnerable place to be, social media.
Yeah,
so we're allowed to pick and choose where we want to be available, where we want to use our voice, where we want to connect with other humans that we haven't met in person. And that is okay.
It is okay.
And sometimes, if anything else, I want you to take away from this. Sometimes when you make change, or you're going through a transition and there's some pushback, that's okay. You just keep on being a conductor. You just keep on being the conductor of your own train. And you know what? It's all love. Anybody who wants to be supportive, even in your differences, you don't have to do everything the same to be on the same train.
No,
you just have to be respectful of one another. Let them on that train. And anyone who's not, just give them a throat punch right off that bitch.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
All right. So that's my own personal experience with my social media and be more mindful with it. And if you want to get in touch with me, I have 1 million emails and 1 million Instagram accounts, and I am here.
Feel better?
I really do.
Awesome.
I think we just harmony circled this.
I knew this would help.
This was a good harmony circle for us.
Yeah.
So thank you for holding space for me.
I held your space.
You, my husband, you hold a lot of things, but you, my husband, and everybody else listening, thank you for holding space for me. You should see his face.
Well, I'd like to hold your boobs right now.
Stop it.
Let me hit the stop button.
You can't say that on our podcast. You just can't.
Why not? You're my wife. That's acceptable.
It is. But, you're supposed to say that after you hit stop.
Okay, I'll hit stop and then say it after. No one will know. Just between us.
Love you guys.
Adios.